uh, thank everybody for coming to the.
You just turn your volume up on.
To the May 8, 2023 Idaho Springs City Work Session. And we only have 2 items today. We'll kick it off with the Clear Creek County EMS Mental Health Co-Responder Program.
Mayor, if I could start, Council. So this has been something that I was invited to participate in looking at with Brian and with the county, and there's also County Department of Human Services part of that, the Sheriff's Department, Georgetown, and so we're just trying to do some evaluation. And Sarah Casano from Department of Human Services did a great job of researching what different agencies are doing around this region, and in I think other parts probably of the country. And so what we're talking about is there's agencies that are starting co-responder programs that have, you know, a police officer with a mental health person or a case manager. There's some programs like the SMART team, which is down in Denver, and it doesn't really involve police. It's more of it's a civilian-led organization that's actually under Denver 911. But they actually came up and met with us, and we also visited the Summit County Sheriff's Department. Brian went, and the sheriff and I and Sarah, and so we went over there and visited with them and saw their, what do they call their team? I can't remember the name of their
Star.
Star. Yeah, Star or Smart.
Smart.
Yeah. Big Smart. And so we basically were trying to look at what different agencies were doing to deal with some of these mental health crisis type calls. And some of these things that, you know, our officers spend a fair amount of time down at the hospitals when we do mental health holds on people. We could be down there for hours. And so there's a number of reasons to look at these different programs. And we still continue to have Carrie, who works for Jefferson Center for Mental Health. She comes and rides with us once a week, and then the opposite week with the Sheriff's Department. And we're continuing that program as well. There's not a need to stop that. So, but Brian and his team have done a great job of putting this program together. So that's why we invited him to present tonight.
Excellent. All right. Thanks for having me. So Clark is going to, Captain Church is going to be the one that's going to spearhead this. It's going to be just a different team out of EMS. And you guys are kind of the first ones that we've started talking to about this. Hope to do about 27 different talks with people in the community. Share this. It's a great idea. I think it's time for something like this to happen in the county and everywhere. And I think all around, locally and at the state level and the national level, a lot of people are trying to figure out how to deal with not only mental health issues, but trying to find a tool to let people know what's available in certain jurisdictions so that they can get help. So just to let you know, I'm Brian, Director of EMS. I've been Clear Creek resident now for 26 years. I live in Silver Plume. I've been working at Clear Creek EMS for 24 now. So been around a while, and thank you folks for what you do. And Idaho Springs has definitely matured well. It's a great spot in the county, and thanks for all the time and effort you guys put in to make this community better, because I know it's not always the most fun kind of job that you guys do, but it sure is important. And thank Chief Busick. I don't know if you guys know or not, I'm sure you do, how special he is as a police officer, you know, and all the years working up here. He is a very special police officer in law enforcement. Very lucky to have him in the community and in the county. So we'll start. We start the chat team in Clear Creek County. So Clear Creek Health Assistance Team. More than just a co-response team. We're really helping everyone out in the community. Are going to try. So as we talk, CCMS will hold program control. There will be a resource committee, which includes DHS for the county, county and municipal law enforcement, public health and community stakeholders. One of the big things we're going to do is have, and we don't know what we're going to call it yet, I think probably a steering committee, and we're going to everyone that wants to be involved in this in the different parts of the county. We'll have some sort of a committee that we could share ideas with. We can get feedback from different parts of the community and see if this team is working out. So the team will start very modest at first. It's going to be with a paramedic, Captain Church, and then we're also going to have a licensed clinical social worker that's going to be with them. The chat team will be dispatched through Quick Creek County Dispatch. At first, law enforcement via EMS can initiate the chat team, but as we start getting more involved with everyone, there'll be other folks, the public health, maybe some different groups in the county, that when there's a need for us, they could give us a call and dispatch us to that also. There's a matrix we'll use in dispatch. We're basically just taking it from the smart team down in Denver. It looks like the chink of pinball when something comes in. There'll be a question for every question. I mean, the first thing we have to do is know that we're safe. And as it gets all the way back down to the bottom, it'll say, okay, this is a chat style call. And then that team will go out, and instead of an ambulance, law enforcement, the chat team will be dispatched to that. Like I said, it's going to start out real modest, but just looking at numbers from the last few years, and law enforcement and EMS in general, we're looking at about 15 to 20% of our calls right now might eventually be something that they could be dispatched to, which, I mean, as we all know, mental health, homeless population, and just the need, in this economy for people to need help is pretty high. And a lot of times the first responders get called to that, and they are tasked at trying to help folks. And hopefully with this model, we'll have a few more tools right off the bat, so we could help them more. Moving along, outreach to community members with known history, outreach to community members that need services, resource navigation. And I don't know if you folks know this or not, we were licensed through Centura to be a community integrated healthcare system. I know you guys have probably all heard of community paramedicine. They do that over in Eagle County and Summit County. That is what's going to be the tractor, is how I describe it. And then this tractor, which is the community integrated healthcare system, will have parts for implements all the way around it. And then hopefully we could tie in everything that we need to tie the co-response, public health, DHS into that tractor, and get people the help that they need with little bit, very little time. The good thing about this is that when we're dispatched to someone having that's the need for the chat, we make immediate contact with folks, and we can see the needs that they need for whether they need housing, whether they need food, whether they need mental health. We're in there, and then we could get them a hold of the people that they need immediately, and then we can do follow-up. And that's a big thing that that's gonna make a big change, is that we're not just gonna give them a one-time, this is what you need. We'll get you a phone number of someone that could help you. We're actually gonna go in and do follow-up on them.
You just see the new medics rehire, we tell them about the situation.
You're muted on this way.
I'm off.
He's off there too, John.
Try this and see. It's working on mine,
Probably
the
still me.
microphone, so.
It's probably still me.
We're good?
I think we're pretty close to good for the moment.
Good-ish.
Yeah, good-ish.
I'm gonna have to say it all over again.
What will the team be responding in?
We have, right now, we're putting in for, it's gonna be like a Tahoe type vehicle. It's gonna be unmarked. Of course, there's gonna be, there's not gonna be a cage in it. But there's gonna be capabilities, so if there's someone on a health hold, that they can't get out from the back of the vehicle. But it's gonna be a regular vehicle without any lights on it, just a transport vehicle. I only had one slide left, lucky you guys. So this was one of those things that came up from the unfortunate incidents that happened. Usually at the county, they say, hurry up and stop. This time they said, slow down, but go fast. So we're really bringing this all together right now. We just put in for the licensed clinical social worker. That hopefully will be filled by the 1st of June. Our launch date is going to be July 1st. We're remodeling space up in Dumont at Station 1A for the team. A lot's got to happen in that amount of time. And quite frankly, as busy as we've been, just getting Captain Church off the ambulance so he could put 100% of his efforts into this. We're going to get a lot done in the next month. So we did get authorized for 2 FTEs to start. We already know it's Clark. We just have to hire the licensed clinical social worker. One of the things that is going to make or break this program is that we need to hire someone that's going to be here to help with the genesis of this program and be here for a little bit. So we have to be picky and we have to be competitive with how much we pay this local licensed clinical social workers. So we'll be in that process next week. And then once we get that taken care of, hopefully it'll go. We do have some people in mind, thanks to DHS. Then we could just basically put our noses down and get all this into play. Baby steps come July 1st. We're going to be start out real slow, see what our capabilities are. There's going to be a lot of things that come up that we haven't planned for. So it's going to be fluid. And then one of the things too that's going to be a part of this team is that there's so much changes in tools and philosophies of how to deal with mental health that we're going to be constantly changing this model as more data is coming in from other areas around us, from other parts of the country, good ideas that have worked. We're definitely going to be morphing it into something that's hopefully a customized product for Clear Creek, and hopefully it's going to be very beneficial for the folks out there. So basically just think of us as an expediter. If someone needs help, we're going to help them. If we can't help them, we're going to expedite them and help them along to get the help that they need. And our philosophy is that I think prevention is not only the way to go, but a lot makes more sense money-wise than just enforcement. So we're really gonna go forward with this team. I'm really excited about it. In 24 years that I've been up here, there's always been a certain group of folks that I don't feel like I could do anything for on the ambulance, and that's very frustrating. Hopefully, we could start helping those folks in this community. So that's the goal behind this. We're 100% into it. The county's 100% into it. I think the municipalities will be 100% into it. And then hopefully 6 months from now or a year from now, I could come with this data and show you, all you folks, what we're doing and how it's working, how it didn't work and how we're changing. And hopefully there'll be some good stories about this team in the county. So I'm sorry, I'm not that, like I said, you're the first group of folks that I presented to. Clark's going to do most of this. I can't believe he took a vacation. I told him he couldn't.
I
But
must say that you did a good.
Yeah.
You do them all.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I'm sorry, I got a cough. Is there any questions? Did I paint a kind of a picture that
So
y'all can
I have a
understand?
few questions.
Sure.
And I'm sorry if I missed some of this, but this team's specific for the mental health, right? Is it taking some of the current EMS employees onto this team, or
Well,
is
Captain Church, which is one of the captains in EMS right now, we will take him off of the ambulance. And then he will be running this team with.
and then how many will there be total? How many, just him?
Just him and the social.
At first, there's just gonna
Okay.
be two. Yeah, just two
Okay.
full-time employees that are on
And
this
then,
team. That won't take away, we'll still have the ambulance. This will be the only thing that him and this social worker do, so that we're not taking anything away from first response. If you think about it, we're actually, there's fire and EMS, and then there's law enforcement. We're kind of creating another eye of first response in the county with this team, and hopefully we could show that it's worth having.
and then you mentioned something about how this is constantly evolving with data and all kinds of stuff. What's the ongoing training that they receive during, is there ongoing training that they're going to be receiving, how to deal with these issues, and what's their background? Is it background's a little different than normal EMS? So.
It is EMS along the clinical social worker will have, a master's basically in mental health. The paramedic Clark Church does have and is getting trained right now in de-escalation techniques in mental health. And Jeremy can attest to this. I think that EMS and law enforcement and fire, just through experience, have a lot of issues in dealing with these folks. In becoming a paramedic, it is not, more than probably 20 hours of training. As you do run calls, you do become more equipped to talk with folks and to de-escalate them. But Clark will be going through the same de-escalation protocols that law enforcement will go through. He's also going through some other administrative stuff. The licensed clinical social worker will have, basically their professional training in mental health issues. It's good to have Clark. It's good to have some medical on there, because there's going to be some medical things that come with these patients. Have they taken anything? Are they on medication? You'll be able to assess the medical needs on scene and really help that team out. So one of the other teams up in Fort Collins and also in down south in Ute Park do the same thing with a paramedic and then a social worker. Now, we don't have to go that high and get a licensed clinical social worker. We could just have counselors, but not going through law enforcement. A licensed clinical social worker, if need be, can write out a mental health hold, and we could take them down with their jurisdiction. If we had police officers on our team also, they could do that. But as I explained the other reasons why we didn't go that direction.
Well, my thoughts would be that you could work with law enforcement to combine your training together to do some of
Absolutely.
the things.
Yeah.
And this is a kind of a tough question, but I have my thoughts on this. But that recent incident that we had, if we had your department involved, that might have ended up in a different, entirely different light.
What,
Is my thought.
which one?
The one that we just went to court over.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
several
Oh,
officers were involved. I mean, do you think that your department could have helped with something like that? I believe it could have.
The problem though, I think, is that what these guys face is that they're not gonna enter
Go to
into an
something that-
unsafe area
right.
without.
That there was a little bit of a
That-
threat of violence. on
Yeah.
it.
So we're gonna work
They're
side by side
right.
with law
And,
enforcement.
and,
And
and
hopefully having
yeah,
more tools that encompass like a call like
Right.
that.
You could have been on a phone call with an officer on how to deal with that possibly.
And we're gonna work hand in hand.
yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
But you won't be dealing with violent
They
interaction.
won't
They won't be there.
Yeah,
That site,
But-
but you could be on the phone maybe.
We could be on the phone, we could be there hopefully to de-escalate stuff before it starts getting ramped up, and that's the whole idea behind the team. And you know, asking law enforcement to slow down a lot of times, and this is just from some of the reading I've done and kind of my personal feeling, is that I think we're putting law enforcement in danger ourselves because they're used to making quick decisions and doing certain things a certain way to keep themselves safe.
100%.
And this is kind of slowing everything down. So
Yep.
a part of the thing that this team's going to do also is training. Training with law enforcement. Law enforcement's going to help train us, and we're going to work together. So hopefully that situation won't happen again.
The other thing I'll say too, not to interrupt, but Clark is, at least he's an experienced paramedic. I mean, he's been around, he's seen a lot, he's done a lot, so I think he's like an outstanding choice from EMS to participate because he's got the experience to know what they're capable of doing or handling, and when he'll know when, hey, I need to back out and call. I mean, that gives me confidence.
Yes.
Program.
What's
He's not a rookie to the streets.
Yeah, he's been a seasoned medic and a flight medic for going on 15 years now. And we're actually keeping him out of medical school because this is something that he's so, this is something that he's wanted to do. He's been around long enough to know that this is a need in these communities. And he thinks he can make a big difference. So he's actually gonna stay out of medical school for a couple of years to get this going. I'm just can't say enough good things about Clark Church, Catholic Church.
Do we have any more questions? Art?
So when the call comes in, that's when the screening is gonna take place to decide who's gonna train the person on the phone to know when or when not to send who,
Dispatch.
and how long will that take? And I think it's a great program, and I think part of the success is to dealing with them afterwards, but you have the staff to do that, because that sounds to me like that's a very time consuming thing. If you go out with a person to take them to an appointment and you stay with them at a medical institution or something like that, very time. So I mean, staffing wise, is that going to be taking away from the fun part of your program? And clearly you're not as important if we transition to the 9/11 and that would be able, will this harm the program, or will those folks down there be able to do the screening like we're expecting? We'll never do screening up here.
Great questions. So the first question of the how we're going to train dispatch is the folks from Denver are going to come up. We're going to get them into some basically what we've used as the protocols that Denver are using, and it's like almost like a first response dispatch course. So it'll be flip chart where you ask this question. If it's yes or no, then you go to this question. If it's yes or no, then you go to this question, and that'll go all the way down to point where it's either a chat team will be dispatched there, or it'll be no, that's a law enforcement first, and then the law enforcement will go, and once they get on scene and stabilize the scene and make sure it's safe, then they'll have the ability to give us a
Pretty
call.
quick process. I mean,
Pretty quick process, yeah.
because the person on the other end has to be participate in those questions as far as quick answers. So I would imagine there's some key words if the person on the phone
Absolutely,
says
absolutely.
that maybe you don't go through all of them, you just,
You say, no, we're gonna go ahead and send,
Okay.
you know.
I just, that's new, so I, yeah.
and Brian, that's assuming that that's through like Jeff Com. or, because that's
It'll work either
Kind of
or.
work, okay.
Jeff Com is working with our data that has a co-response team.
and they're
This is
probably way
similar
more
protocol.
familiar with kind of the protocol, what you know, improvise.
It'll work in either or.
Towards, okay.
And then your middle question, I'm sorry, was.
I'm sorry.
Staffing. So one of the things we have to do, and there's the Gateway to the Rockies narcotic money out there right now. There's a lot of other grants that we're able to go after. I want the data to prove that we need that. Of course, I'm sure that we're going to show that we need that, but instead of starting out quick and get a bunch of staff, we want to start modest and work our way up. And in that way, I'm pretty sure the Gateway to the Rockies would have given us the money for our 10 folks this year. But if we would tell them that we don't have our stuff together enough yet to need that, and then turn down that, I think we would have a less of a chance next year to get that funding. And a lot of grants are like that.
Yeah.
They love it when you get everything together and ask for the money. They hate it when you say, you know what, we don't need that money right now because we don't have the data to back that up. So we want to be in a good, solid, strong position for when we go after those monies to say, here's the data to back that up. And I do believe you'd be right. I do believe, you know, a shift at some point, and someone just doing administrative things, having more than one vehicle, because if our one vehicle right now is on a chat call, we're not going to be able to take someone to an appointment at public health.
Yeah,
This is going to ramp up
Yeah.
at a real steep
Seems like
trajectory.
Sometimes when you hear about things, you hear that, well, they didn't follow up with this person. And that's
That's a huge
so
problem.
that's.
And I am sorry, council, we're just getting tight on time. We had some technical difficulties, so I'm gonna suggest we go 10 minutes over. Because we do have one other item to discuss.
Yeah.
But Brian, I thought you did a great job, and I just want to make sure we have anything else that want to ask Brian.
Any questions, reach out to us. You're going to hear a lot more from us. We're going to be out doing a lot of community engagement. And we'll always let you know what we're up to, and you'll be a part of this process as we get it going. We're really excited and think it can make a big change.
Well, excellent. It's really good to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for your
Good to
service.
see all of you. Thank
You guys do a wonderful job, so. Yes, sir.
Please don't ever hesitate to give me a call. I could talk for hours.
I wish we did have one.
All right. Yeah. Brian, thank you so much. Mayor.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Brian.
Good to see you, buddy.
All right, and the last thing on the work session is the Clear Creek Metropolitan Rec District Special Event Liquor Licensing Fee Reduction.
Sam and Wonder, do you want to join us really quickly? Wonder, do you want to present the staff report or do you want me to, or? Okay, so Mayor and Council, Wonder has been working on special event liquor license fees for specifically Clear Creek Metropolitan Rec District. If you remember, they came for public comment several weeks ago and asked for a reduction in the fees that we charge as a city for their events. Most of their events, I guess all of their events happen at Shelley Quinn Fields, which they lease from the city. We have an agreement with them that's pretty long-standing. I think it's almost as old as the ball fields themselves. Then they manage the fields, and then we just own the property essentially. And so the only trigger for them to have a special event permit license at the moment is the liquor licensing. And so we've been trying to figure out ways to both make it easier for them to submit those licenses, make it easier for staff, and to keep it as cost effective as possible. After the public comment on the meeting proceeding, which I should have put the date of, it's on 3/13. I directed Wonder to look at the fees, and she had provided a little update in her staff report about what the fees were at that time. I've included that in this staff report. One thing to note is that there is a practice in the city that we've always allowed 10 events, but there's actually not a restriction on that. They're allowed to have 15 special event licenses, period, in total. So that's something that's just a standing practice in the city that we don't necessarily have to follow. They provide us with a lot of information. They give us a site plan, a security plan, which includes signage, plan to make sure that minors do not drink and that people stay safe. And typically what happens is in the ISMC, which is the municipal code, and the fee Fees are set for 1-day special events. There's $100 application fee, $100 refundable deposit for each event, and $100 liquor license fee. And that's for the actual event itself. Wonder did a little bit of an analysis to see what our costs were. And currently she's estimating about 4 hours of total staff time with the, with everything all put together, the cost of the sign and everything. She's estimating that we have a total cost of about $184 per event. So one of the things we've been trying to do is how can we reduce that by reducing our staff time and their staff time? We looked at a couple different alternatives that are listed in your staff report. The first one is that we charge no fees. In that case, we'd be eating those costs of staff time every day. And we'd also have costs that are associated with signs. Signs are a little bit expensive to print. They're those big garage sale style signs. And that's been something that was a consideration here. We considered allowing the applicant to submit batch applications for events that are the same. So for instance, if they have a movie at the park that has a liquor component, they could do that on one application, which is provided by the state. And then they could just pay the $100 fee per event. And then we could also hold them to the current fee schedule, which is the $100 per application fee, $100 deposit, and the $100 per day of, for the liquor license. We have already cut $200 off that fee for the rec center. So that was one of the considerations. The recommendation in the staff report is that we do move forward with option number 2, which allows them to batch the events that are the same. And we can see how that goes with them. They'd have to be in good standing, but they have always been in good standing. And they are doing this for the Metropolitan District. It is something that makes revenue, but it makes revenue specifically to support the Metropolitan District. And we know that they've had some challenges with their mill levy over the past few years going down. We also have a couple of questions that we wanted to ask. One is, should we modify the fee schedule to set a fee for the rec district, which is something we could do? That would be, from a city perspective, kind of nice because it makes it equitable. It makes it clear that we're not just making numbers up. It's in the fee schedule for the city. And then we also just wanted to ask quickly about the 10 event tradition that we have. Again, that's not set in code, but Wonder did want to point that out, that that's been a long-standing plan for the city. And we could just say the limit is 15. You can do what the state allows you to do as long as you haven't exceeded that in other areas. Wonder, does that wrap up what you had?
It does.
Okay.
You know, I would just weigh in, I don't think it hurts for us just to make it 15, state's 15. Like you said, they've always been in good standing. This year they had planned 11, which is one over.
Yeah.
You know, and it would appear to me that number 2, batch applications could definitely save, you know, their time, our time. I think that's very, very reasonable.
Fees are the other big question here, because council could set a different fee for this event. And we have really gone back and forth on what, I guess the really crux of the question is, what should the city recover in terms of staff time and signage and everything for these events? The signs are a little bit expensive. They also don't tend to last forever. So we do probably go through a couple signs over a summer. That's one of the costs. And we had anticipated about $50 total for the signs. We have Wonders time. That could potentially go down if we get all of this kind of stuff where it's streamlined and it's just a very easy process. So I think there's some flexibility for council to set a fee for the rec center based on those parameters. And one other, we could separate those 2 items. We could say the signage is paid separately than the staff time, or we bill like that or something like that. But this has come up several times, and they run very many community events. These are all intended for the community. They have a couple of larger events during the summer, like Rapid Grass, which has a free community night associated with it. I think that there's a good nexus here for being a good community partner, but also just making sure, we just want to make sure we're good community partners and good stewards of city time as well.
I'd just like to go around the table and ask, because I'd like to see our fees covered. I personally, I don't want to make anything on the rec center, but we have waived some fees already. Maybe if we could just recover so we break even on this, I think that would be a fair way to take a look at this. Also, again, just go ahead and put the the events at 15, because that's where the state's at. I think it'd be very simple. And suggestion number 2 with the batch applications, I think this could reduce costs for everybody in time. So
Didn't we give one or a raise? Yeah, that's why we can't afford it. So, I'm just kidding.
Did you?
Just kidding.
Art, how do you feel?
Well, I don't want us to lose money. And cooperative there, but the least we should do is break even.
100%.
Okay,
Yep.
Jimmy,
Yes,
break even?
absolutely.
Yeah, it just depends on where that break even amount is. I mean, can we
Right.
figure them at the bare minimum? We're able to figure costs.
And I agree. And another reason why I'm pushing the batch application, because it just lowers costs for our break even
Correct.
would be lower.
Exactly.
I mean, I think we should be trying to do it at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't understand that we buy signs.
No, I don't think
What's-
we
what's-
do. I think rec district, yeah.
We
Or-
buy the signs because they are mandated by the statutes. So the size of the
Oh,
font and all
really?
that stuff is.
Oh, I know all about that.
So we do it just to make sure it. follows
But
the
that's
statute.
that's a city issue then, yes? Not a rec district.
Well, we have to provide the sign
For
for
the
the rent
event.
to post.
If the-
For the event.
They post it at the
It's a
ball field
standard
before
sign.
the,
But is that something that can be reused?
Sometimes we
typically.
try, yeah, we put tape on it, tape it up.
Well,
Yeah.
Sam, you guys have a box that could go in potentially.
If they don't get destroyed or whatever, yeah.
We are very creative with duct tape on those signs
We
usually.
do- we have white
Gotcha.
duct tape. Right on
Yes,
it.
they
John,
do.
anything else? Okay, Jeremy?
I think doing a batch application does make sense. Especially if you're doing a series of events and you know what you're doing. Way less staff time, way less time for you.
Yeah.
And I agree with breaking even. Money, but I don't lose money,
Yeah, sure.
whatever that. And I think it does lower by doing batch applications, should lower the.
And I think Wonder Works too hard enough that, you know. The more and more time we put on her or tasks, you know, and yourself as well, that. You know, that's. You know, that's counterproductive.
Yeah.
You know, something like that, so.
I have one follow-up conversation just based on your conversation. We're currently charging 100 right now, which is not fully meeting our stat time requirement.
Right.
I have a suggestion just based on what you guys have been saying. If we allow for the batch application and we keep the fee at 100 for right now, and we let Wonder try it out this year and see like if our time requirement goes, let's say it goes down to 1 hour or 2 hours, then we could revisit this and maybe change the fee appropriately. And maybe we could do something like we say, purchase the sign and then.
And maybe in the beginning of the season or something, we could have, okay, CCMRD, how many signs do you think you're going to use? And then they could pay for those up front.
There
And then
you
they would
go.
be their sign. I
Right,
mean,
I
we
think
make
we'd
the,
be
we
happy
make it the
to do
size they
that.
are, but that could just be another thing. And then we wouldn't have that sign replacement fee in the hourly or whatever.
that's what I was thinking.
Because that's hard to judge when they're gonna get, if and when they're gonna be destroyed and how long they're gonna last.
Like if we purchased 5 of them.
But,
I think we had talked about, like, I could send you a picture of the sign down there. I don't know.
I write it up, because
You
then it
have
falls
to
on
write
my
it up.
responsibility to make sure it's correct.
Okay.
But you could buy them, I could hold them for you,
Yeah,
because
we
we're
could
not gonna
just-
use them.
are they metal? Wonder? like-
No,
they're
they're
like
like that.
corrugated
poster- they're-
plastic.
Why don't-
Yeah, that.
Why don't we do a metal, like a towaways on sign? I'm into this, so I know. Like what, you know, the font, size, lettering, all the above verbiage. That, if we did something metal that would last, I mean, virtually forever.
I think, I don't know how that would work with writing on it. I think
I
if
don't
we,
either.
we have our storage box on it, but it was broken last year, so that was part of the issue. I think too, like if we're the ones buying the signs, that puts a little bit more.
And-
like,
and- but maybe
those are
you
our
could do-
signs.
And maybe you
Right.
could do a different sign for each event, but like an upcoming thing that, right, you got one for this, that, the other. Or, you know, whatever, and then use the ones, you know, appropriate for whatever's going on.
Yeah, we'll have to get.
So
Yeah, I would start with
creative
me
for the
and then,
batch
yeah,
ones, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have one
That'll be
quick thing
interesting
too,
to
and
see.
Carmen's not here to address this, but
Hmm.
does the
We
city
do have an
have,
attorney here.
Nick is here.
The,
Oh,
Nick?
but does the city have any liability on these?
Do you want to
type of
come be an
events?
attorney?
And does the rec center have to carry a liability insurance on these events?
Hey, greetings.
Hi, everyone.
No
And it
matter.
covers liquor liability on these events.
We have to cover liability insurance by the special event permit.
Does the city
Yeah.
hold liability when if we issue a special event liquor license, are we liable for that?
Do we have any liabilities
It is on city property that's leased.
that
That's
has
why it's
alcohol
interesting.
at them?
We have a COI for you all the time.
Right,
That's
you
what
know,
I
sure.
provide.
Which
For
provides
every
us
special
with
event
additional
permit.
insured or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I would say yes, you
You
cover,
really
yeah.
wanted, we could do a COI specific to each event. Really.
Like
want me to
names
do that.
specific to that.
Uh-huh.
Think that's necessary.
Mayor, on the batch applications, would you like us to charge the 100 for each event or just 100 for the batch?
So like
Well,
per day,
I think the suggestion earlier about let's see if the batch application significantly helps with the time and we adjust a fee accordingly, so we break even. That's what I'm hearing from council.
Okay. Is
So
that-
wouldn't necessarily have to be $100 per, you know,
right.
like this year, 11 events, $1,100. If we
Could we-
may find that $80 per or $800 or something.
Could we bill, could we, just as a one last alternative, just try to wrap this up? Could we do the sign? We'll figure out the sign. So the rec center maybe buys the sign and then we just bill them for staff time used? Would that be an okay, up to like 4 hours or
From what
something?
I'm hearing from council, I think everybody be all right with that. We're not trying to make a profit on a nonprofit.
Right.
We just want to break even.
Okay.
I agree.
'Cause that way, like, that gives the rec center some incentive to have everything wrapped up
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
it makes it so that if we do have a little bit extra time, we can recover the dollars.
Okay, everybody all right with that one?
Yes, sir.
All right.
to clarify, so for, I have 2 batch applications right now for the water series. They're different though. So that's different, correct? A batch would have to be exactly the same. So like you say, the whitewater series, it's named the same, operates the same time. That is what a batch is.
Well, I'd love to discuss that more. I mean, they have 2 different names, but it's music, the exact same time with the exact same plans.
Yeah.
Can it just be the music series?
So my question is it $100 per application page or per day? What do we bill right now? Nothing, and then we send it?
My
back?
understanding was what we were talking about is the batch application would just be billed staff time plus sign.
Okay.
Because that way, if it takes 4 hours, it's 4 hours of staff time. If it takes 1 hour, then it's 1 hour of staff time. Because that way they'd have some incentive to make sure it's a completed application and we're not tracking things down. The question about the event, we could,
Like I wouldn't submit the whitewater or low water music series since it's a batch.
Yeah.
of rap.
we had
Like,
originally
that's
talked
cool.
about having a liquor control plan event and that was what it was. And then that way they could be, because it would work very similar to the premise for a bar. Like that premise would be the same. It would just be the same control plan for an event. The event would just change. But Wonder in her analysis of the form understands that it needs to be like every bit of the event needs to be.
The state made
the
that
same.
form for public hearing
Right.
purposes. That's why there's so many spots there. It's for public hearings, not for issuing signs and all that, because then that's like looking like, oh, it's 10 to 3. Okay, and it's called this, because you have to put all of that on the sign.
Yep.
It's gotta
Right.
be specific for each
Each event.
day, right?
Or, yeah.
Right.
I get it. Well, if,
Yeah.
yeah, well, if you need help, I can certainly give you really good contact for signing. Whether it's corrugated, like cardboard or metal,
We could
Whatever.
definitely use that
Yeah,
contact.
for sure.
I'll get you, I'll
They're
get it
expensive.
for you.
Jonathan, you have the direction that you need?
Yep, so we'll do staff time plus sign.
Yep.
And then we'll revisit. Sam, would you be able to come back after maybe at the end of the summer so we can get this wrapped up before you guys go to budget and everything for next year, just to make sure we've got it? Okay,
Okay, good deal.
So John, just to you, is that all right?
that'd be awesome. I really appreciate it.
All right.
I'll give it to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, we will adjourn this work session late. Fortunately, it's not a real big packet. We'll reconvene here in about 5 minutes.
Well, right now, like I have the whitewater one. and the-
John, just email that or text.
Well, let's see.
That's all right.
Oh,
dude, I know. Well. Say there are that that could have been out the height of your lettering, because every state is different.
That would not be the best.
Like whether you're towing cars, whether you're, doing events.
Right.
like, you know, the community codes or the state law
Yeah, you gotta be like,
is all different.
yeah, it
So,
changes
yeah.
every single
Yep.
5 miles or
And
whatever.
I think these guys are out of like Fort Worth or something.
That would be awesome.
So, yeah, I'll get it for you, okay?
I need them for like planning commission and stuff too. We looked at like cheapo signs. Some of them are hard to like design.
Yeah, I was like.
Getting married.
Really?
Yeah. I did not. Literally.
Congratulations.
Got married already.
Where'd you get married?
Boom.
Wow. My favorite. Get a hurricane? Yeah.
Hurricane.
Yeah, that. Sazerac. Don't.
Sazerac is so gross.
I was.
You have to have drink like.
You like Sazerac? But that's a.
Hopefully, we eventually can make.
Why is everything?
I don't know, because I thought I had it fixed earlier. I played with it.
Not Montana,
It's working again tomorrow.
Canyon, I meet them next. Virginia Street. Yeah. So. I figured, I say talk to them, they're thinking. Yeah, about a new tank. Yeah, which makes a huge difference. I think we can make ISO flows that way. Very true.
Everything's broken. Where's my?
When there's a certain. Yeah, we need 200.
No, it's working a little funky.
Daily use drop off the earth capacity and not worry about drawing yourself in the meeting. Oh, yeah. Still working on a huge project.
Yeah, okay with that.
I've been cranking the mouth on it, going, that works.
I'm charging more.
But I don't know why this is.
I think you got your water bottle back. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Solid.
But it's on May 10th.
Yeah.
Want to talk about the engineering about the water system. Yeah, 11 o'clock on the 10th.
call it adjourn, or call it at 7:20. We'll start with roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Here.
Art Cacavelli. Jeremy Jones.
Here.
Scott Pennell.
Here.
Jim Clark.
Here.
Kate Collier. John Curtis. Thank you.
All please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. We have an agenda before us tonight. Do I have a motion?
To approve the agenda for May 8th, 2023 meeting.
Thank you, Scott. And Jimmy, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Does anyone tonight feel they have a conflict of interest? Hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Approve minutes for April 24th, 2023.
Thank you, John. And do I have a second?
Okay.
And a second from Jimmy. Any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have the bills before us tonight. Do I have a motion?
To approve the bills to May 8th, 2023.
Thank you, Art. Do I have a second? And a second from Scott. Any discussion of the bills? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
Kate Collier. John Curtis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And do we have any public comments?
Yes, Mayor. Would you?
Oh, thank you. We have two. Samantha. Oh, you're gonna speak together? Okay, then I will call up Samantha and Sadie. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you.
Can you both just state your name and your address for the record, please?
So Samantha Dine, 810 Minor Street, Idaho Springs, Colorado, 820.
Thank you.
Sadie Schultz, 1634 Minor Street.
Thank you.
I'll let Sam start.
All right, well, you each have 3 minutes and normally we don't have a back and forth with public comment. It's our time to listen. But please start out.
Thank you for having us here this evening. We're here on behalf of Rapid Cross, which will be taking place on August 4th through the 6th this year. And I want to start off by apologizing. We were planning to have camping this year, but I'm aware that we needed to request official permission from the city to have camping. So I apologize. I wasn't on the site. So I am requesting that you allow us to have camping on Friday evening, which is the 4th, and then also Saturday, which is the 5th. We're working on finalizing those plans. That'll be a part of our special event application. And so obviously there's a lot of security around that. So we will be providing a plan for it. So thank you very much for allowing us to come before you. Rapid Grass has been post-COVID a one-night event. Now we are feeling ready to go back to our pre-COVID full Rapid Grass lineup, which includes a Friday night that we would like to keep as a community event. So free to the community. And we have already had a very large interest in that and had a ton of people in the community excited that we're keeping Friday free. Saturday will be ticketed, and this will be the first time since COVID that we go back to selling tickets. We're keeping the ticket costs really low again, hoping to really get community engagement, sponsorship, as well as raising money for both the rec center and the Chamber of Commerce to continue the services that we're providing to the community. And then Sunday will be a fun kind of bonus day, morning of fun stuff that the promoters of Rapid Grass are throwing some fun workshops and stuff like that. So it will be a full weekend lineup, which will be the first year since COVID that we've been able to speak to. Sam wasn't around for organizing and planning pre-COVID Rapid Grasses, but we've never had an incident with camping at Rapid Grass pre-COVID. camping was authorized pre-COVID, before when Rapid Grass was 3 days festivals in the past, and there was never any concerns or problems with that being done at the ball fields previously. Also, before you guys have our 3-day sponsorship letter. Last year, the city was generous enough to be a sponsor of Rapid Grass. We are requesting again that the city be a partner and sponsor for Rapid Grass. We have different sponsorship levels that you guys have in your packet that we're able to give to you that kind of talks about what we're doing differently this year, as well as the levels of sponsorship. To remind you, the city last year did sponsor at the level of $1,000. We'd be happy to receive that again at any level that the city would like to participate. We would love your guys' support in that. So that is all I think we have to say.
All right, well, thank you. We just learned of this tonight. Unfortunately, this does not kick off until August 4th. Staff, of course, we've done this in the past, and I would just ask, does the rec district have all of the forms and information that they will need for a plan?
I don't have anything for Rapid Grass this time.
One thing that will be challenging is there is an ordinance that prohibits camping in this way, but it, like they had said, there has been an exception in the past. So what I might suggest is maybe we could have a brief work session topic on this in just a short period of time so that we can come up with a good plan in theory.
All right, well, that seems like a responsible thing to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, and we have no unscheduled public comments. No liquor licensing, no finance officer tonight, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We don't have any resolutions. We do have an ordinance second reading. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve ordinance 7, series 2023, and ordinance repealing and reenacting section 17-67, the Idaho Springs Municipal Code concerning certain weapons possession in response to federal case law.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second?
No, sir.
All right, Jeremy, thank you. Second. Any discussion?
No, I'm still a little confused on this one. Unfortunately, I wasn't here that night that
Sure.
this went in, so can you brief me on? This is just for the city building that there is.
That's correct, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like the post office, et cetera, or any other federal building, why wouldn't there just be a sign? Is this, what would this be directed towards? Like a law-abiding citizen exercising a Second Amendment right, or a concealed carry permit issued by the sheriff of our county? What's the purpose of this?
Well, the ordinance itself simply limits the possession of a firearm in just this building.
Okay, but why is that?
By anyone except for a licensed police officer, law officer.
A licensed law officer has no more rights than I do.
I hear you, and I'm not.
No, that's the curiosity of which I'm stating. Like, we all fall under the Second Amendment.
I would say that the
Now,
most recent Supreme Court case really expanded the right to open carry in public places.
sure.
And that is why this ordinance has been introduced to repeal the code provision that made it a code violation to possess in a liquor license premise. But in that same Supreme Court decision, the court specifically stated that sensitive places like government buildings, schools, and polling places can be regulated. But you can prohibit.
But my question is that why, so any law-abiding citizen doesn't need this because if I wasn't on city council and I'm a concealed carry permit holder and I didn't I didn't know that this was a law. All of a sudden, our government could put me into a position where I could tentatively lose my concealed carry permit because I didn't know the muni code, rather than a sign on the front door that says there's no firearms here.
Yeah, and you could add a sign that says that in addition.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So why would we bait our like free citizens of this country into something that they possibly don't know, that where anybody who abides by the law, right, who carries concealed. I'm the last guy here tonight with a concealed weapon that's going to harm anybody. Okay. But I'm also the first guy too, that if something does happen that's tragic, that will, with probably the chief, the only other one that will stop the threat. So that's just my question as to why we don't. You're tentatively putting all of our citizens into a situation where they could be charged with a crime that they don't know about.
Yeah, Jimmy, it seems like a sign on the door here at City Hall would be a prudent thing to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, but my question is the sign on the door is not any less of a restriction than the ordinance? Is it equal? As far as,
I think it would definitely help, as Jim suggests.
well, I'm saying instead of the ordinance, a sign. Not both of them, but just one. Will a sign still accomplish what this ordinance is trying to accomplish in a legal manner?
I don't think so, because you would essentially be saying, you know, it's unlawful to carry a weapon in here, but you wouldn't actually have that on the books, you know?
Well, yeah, but
It's like don't smoke cigarettes within 15 feet of the thing with the sign. It doesn't have the same meaning as record on the books. Right?
Yeah.
well, yeah, but
It's just an analogy.
well, sure, but if somebody's smoking a cigarette within 15 feet of your building, right, you can enforce that.
Well,
Right.
if there's nothing on the books, I don't.
Well, if you got a sign up on the door that says you can't, you own the property.
Well,
Yeah, well,
wait.
that's gets fuzzy.
I think it would be more analogous to say you're driving on the highway and you see one of those signs that says, you know, don't get a DUI, stay sober, but there's no law against driving under the influence.
Well, or the speed limit's 55 and you're doing 70, like that's your choice. And if you get caught doing that, then, you know, you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
Going off something Jim said too, is like a lot of these buildings, I've seen this for a long time, you can't carry a firearm, you can't even have a small knife, they have security check-ins. For
Correct.
some of these larger municipalities, those people would know you shouldn't carry, but like Jim's saying, a concealed carry guy comes in, he has no idea that he's breaking the law.
And I do think a sign would be helpful too.
Yeah.
Thank
We'll
thank
do
you.
it.
Thank you. And you know what? Myself and everybody else, I would assume if I'm coming to pay my water bill in, you know what, I'm gonna leave my firearm in my car. That's it. Cause I know it's not allowed here. The same as I do when I go get my mail at the post office.
Yeah.
That's it. Right? And I think that every, you know, law abiding citizen who respects the law and, you know, follows the law and also has the privilege of owning a concealed carry weapon or an open carry weapon, because Colorado is just that,
Mhm.
an open carry state, would not do such. Especially something to harm that privilege that they have and that they've earned. Right?
Yeah.
I just. So,
Can I, Jim, so you're saying both of them would be okay
no, I don't think that it's,
if we have the sign? You're saying it's not necessary to have the ordinance.
right, because whether we have it as an ordinance or not an ordinance, it's. You know, criminals aren't, a felon's not supposed to possess a weapon either, but they do, but the point that I'm trying to make is that I don't think that's a fair shake to the law abiding citizen who actually has concealed carry, because that's why he owns and possesses that concealed carry permit, because he is a law abiding citizen and he earned that. And he applied for it and he proved to the sheriff or a county that he can possess that. To come in here and then potentially not know our code, our muni code, and then have almost he could get charged with whatever, you know, it is associated with that penalty of the code.
But he's suggesting we have both.
Well, I disagree with that. I think that it's like the post office. I mean, you know, you can't go, right? It says it right on the door.
Yeah.
There, you know, and like I said, I think that every law-abiding citizen respects that, and they don't carry in the post office. They wouldn't carry at the Capitol, right? They wouldn't go to the White House and carry a concealed firearm because you're not allowed to.
Can you state to the fact how many municipalities are doing this? I mean, is this a majority of municipalities are enforcing this or putting this on the books, or?
I don't know, you know, I don't want to mislead you, and I, you know, haven't done
If
the
our
full
county
research.
offices, for instance, I don't know if our county offices allows for concealed carry and then.
Yeah.
I know, you know, of
They
a handful of municipalities around here that I personally know, but you know, I haven't spent the time to do it.
You can't go
100
through
municipalities.
the court, right? You can't go through the.
Not
the
courts, but I'm
No.
just saying the county building in general.
Well, I walked in there with my firearm, taking it off and giving it to the officer who's running the thing,
Yeah.
right? With my concealed carry permit, and he's like, cool, thanks, you know, thank you. You can have it when you're done. That's it. And the guy knows I'm not gonna shoot him.
Are you talking about when
At-
you're
at the
done
county.
with your business, you go back to there and collect your weapon, or?
Yeah, when you're, yep, absolutely. And you'll kindly hand it back to you with your permit and, you know, you're done. So but that's, you know, that's honesty, that's right.
One more time, just repeat what you said at the beginning as far as the law, how it changed and the stipulation that, well, it wasn't a stipulation, a suggestion that the Supreme Court said you may or may not.
Well, yeah, the law essentially changed where there's a wide range of public carry now that can't be criminalized by governments, local, federal, state. But one of the exceptions to that is called the sensitive places doctrine. And a sensitive place is a school, a government building, or a polling place. And that those locations and what they say are analogous to those, which you know, is up for further debate and inspection of the case law, but just those three.
But they still left that up to the schools and the.
Well, to a local,
institutions you just-
to a government can say, you know, there's no firearms permitted in this school, this polling place, or this government building.
And or like Brush High School or Fort Morgan High School, Wildona High School. They have a sign on the door. It says, it doesn't say there's no firearms allowed here. It says the staff is armed.
And
So,
I'm just telling you what
I
it
don't,
is.
no, I understand, but that's a contradictory statement of that they're, you know, it applies to schools, et cetera, because that's not true. They do have armed
No, he
staff.
said
No, but you
government
can.
controls it. Government can't control whether it's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize.
You can, I mean,
Okay, I apologize.
a government can say no guns at this polling place on election day. Or no guns in a city building
And
like this
then I
one
said-
here.
Thought you said and schools. as
And
well.
schools,
But
yes.
they can say
But
that.
that's not the truth.
No, it is. You can say, a local government could say there's no guns permitted in the school. The state government,
Or they can say they can't. have it.
yeah, and
Okay,
the
alright.
state government could pass a bill tomorrow saying there's no guns permitted in any public schools in the state.
Because that, you know what, and I'll tell you right now, that the guy gonna go shoot a school up. He walks to that door, that guy ain't going there to shoot up a school with our kids in it. The same as on the door here. I'm not gonna bring firearm in, right? I mean, it's pretty simple, I think, and I don't think that there needs to be a mandated, code to where an honest, citizen could violate that tentatively or potentially, and then get in trouble for that.
And I think that's, you're entitled to your opinion, and that goes to the merits of the ordinance and whether to vote for or against it. I'm just here to let you guys know that
Absolutely.
you can do this.
No, I appreciate that.
We're not arguing with you.
No way.
Yeah.
No. Yeah,
So-
you're just a smart legal dude, man.
School doesn't, do an ordinance or make a law, they just simply say this is our policy. That no one can carry a gun into the school, right? I mean, it's a policy, and then they would put up signage.
Which isn't law, correct?
Well, in a
Like
difference,
rules
in
or
a difference
policies
way to
of law.
go here, if you brought a gun to a school and it said no guns allowed,
You just broke the rule.
but you could
break
be
the law.
arrested for trespassing
Oh,
and you broke the law that way.
Oh, okay, all
Where
right.
Jimmy's getting at, and I understand, is whether or not this is effective law. Makes sense to not have people carry guns. Is that effective to decriminalize things? Or in his stating is the criminals are carrying the guns no matter what.
There you go.
And you're taking the guns out of the responsible individual. So
Yep.
there's debate both ways. I mean,
100%.
100% different views on this.
But if the
All
chief
over the
wasn't
map.
here tonight, the only other guy in this room with a gun is some
Yeah.
person walk through the door, right? And
Who's gonna protect us?
Well, there you go. And I suddenly broke the law, so from 0 to hero or hero to zero in 10 seconds of whatever. And neutralize whatever the problem is, because I took the oath to say, I'm gonna protect myself, my family, and everybody around me. But I'm not allowed to have a gun here, or I'm not,
Yeah, I hear your argument.
right?
I mean, I think you could make an argument for situational things all over the map.
100%. I agree,
You know,
Scott. I agree.
Would the guy with the conceal and carry escalate the situation, or would he de-escalate it or take care of the criminal? Or, this is,
Yes.
you could have arguments
Correct.
all over the
Correct.
place.
Well,
I agree.
Two scenarios, a guy comes in with a gun, we have the ordinance in place. And someone calls and chief sends a police officer over. He gets arrested, or I assume, for carrying a gun in a building that by ordinance you cannot carry a gun.
Typically in these situations, typically people are issued a citation. And then a must
Okay.
appear to
All
come.
right, all right, now we don't have an ordinance, we have a sign. They call the police, because he violated the sign, he gets the same type of citation.
Well, if you don't create the ordinance, then they wouldn't get a citation.
If there's a sign up, people, there's no guns allowed in this building.
Well, it has to be an ordinance, so that would be a law
You'd
in order to
have
be cited.
to break.
You'd
the
have to
law.
have a law to enforce that sign.
Correct. Unless
Otherwise,
the
you
only
can't
other
enforce
scenario
that.
that the attorney, mayor, sorry,
Oh,
the only other scenario would be if they were asked to leave. They wouldn't leave or go with their firearm. away, then
Trespassing.
They potentially could be trespassing. Trespassing can also become a little bit gray when you're talking about public buildings, though.
Mhm.
But if they're not following a rule, I think you have enough to articulate trespass.
Thank you, chief. And thank you, sir, very much.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
No,
Jeremy Jones,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Jim Clark,
No.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Kate Collier. Thank you.
One more reading.
That was second reading.
That was it.
Nick, welcome.
Hi.
We got a little section there for city attorney. Wanted to know if you had anything else for us tonight.
That's all I had
All
for
right,
you off the top.
okay. And let's see, Andy, got a request for action here. Yes, please. All right, under city administrator, we have one request for action. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve a fee memo from JVA in an amount of not to exceed $27,000 related to the design and engineering for the new foundation and relocation of the Roberts Brothers Building, account number 59-70-5108.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Art. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I'm afraid this building's the same as the Jacob House. I don't know if we'll make the move.
Well, there was mistakes pointed out with the Jacob House from the same family that moved to this building. And in fact, we met with the gentleman that moved to this building. His son went through and gives a second opinion over there on the garage.
No, I didn't know, I haven't seen anything, so.
Well, the way it was explained to me with the Jacob House, if you were to say, put in 16 steel beams and lift without, and the beams are that far apart, without any kind of support between the beams. Now you've got unsupported masonry just spanning 30 inches or whatever between the beams. With these 18 steel beams, you've now created 36 pressure points on it. And he said they do in between the eyes of the I beam, they put like wooden spreaders to support the masonry when it's lifted. And he felt if you don't do it, you're asking, you may get away with it, but that shortcut could create a lot of stress points and cracks. And that may have been a contributing factor. The other one was that I don't think they fully appreciated that interior wall at the building where the addition had been put on the back. In this case, we're leaving the addition that was put on the east side of the Roberts Brothers. And I know we had met with the engineers over there, and Ryberg is the other house mover. And the engineers even asked, do you want us to put any kind of interior bracing or anything? Because it's a tall building and 2 courses of brick thick. And he said, no, that was not going to be necessary. Anything further? Roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Sure.
Everything
else passed.
Kate Collier. John Curtis.
No.
Andy, anything else for us tonight?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. Assistant City Administrator, Jonathan, you have anything further for us tonight?
Just like to note that you'll start seeing new parking signs in the downtown area. I pointed out Ashley Grooms, who's our customer service manager, and she's been doing a really great job lately. And I just wanted to let you guys know about that.
All right, well, thank you. Yes. And then Wonder, you have one request for direction?
Yes, and I'm pretty confident that I got that direction during the work session.
Okay,
So
all right.
that's that slide.
And I should point out the sales tax numbers. We would have expected the sales tax numbers to be up about 25% because of the 1 cent sales tax. So also there's about a 5 or 6% inflationary component. And I'm happy to say we're right in line where we ought to be. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure thing.
All right, Chief, anything further for us tonight? All right, well, thank you. Public Works, got a couple good staff reports from Water and Public Works. Nothing for us further tonight, right?
That's nicer.
All right. And let's see here. We've got something for Ed here. Move to approve an engineering estimate. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to move to approve the engineering estimate of $126,000 JV Engineering for the reconstruction of the Montane water tank from line item 51-72-7320.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second?
Second.
And second from John. Any discussion?
Yeah, just so everybody knows, we don't own the land. We do have a maintenance easement up there. And Jeremy told me what we had 20 minutes of our flow water supply. So I'm hoping we're gonna have a bigger tank in the future someplace.
Right.
Hope you guys are working on it.
All right. Anything further? Yes.
Part of this design and engineering will include looking at some alternative sites in that immediate area. So we may be coming back to council with some more direction on that, but we are looking at some options for better situation for that tank, maybe better accessibility and just a better accessibility mainly. We are looking at that.
All right. Thank you. Yes.
And the engineering quote recalculates the fire flow damage.
All right. Good deal. Anything further? Roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yep.
Kate Collier. John Curtis.
Yes.
All right. We don't have any anything from treasurer. I don't have anything tonight other than we've got another work session at our next regular meeting. Won't be until May 22nd. So I'll see everybody in a couple of weeks. Before I adjourn, does anybody have anything further tonight? Yes, Andy.
We are going to have our annual city cleanup
Thank you.
on Saturday, May 20th, from 9 to 3. They'll have a thanks to the mayor reaching out to get one dumpster donated, and the other dumpster we will pay for like we did last year. So there'll be 2 dumpsters on site at CRC Park will be monitored, and then there'll also be trash bags for people to pick up trash bag and go collect trash in the city.
All right, well, that sounds good. Anything further?
I might throw in, there are other cleanups going on as well. A cemetery will have its annual cleanup day, and that will be the day before. It'll be on the Friday, I think from like 9 to noon. They're having a
Yeah, they're gonna have coffee and donuts for folks that want to come and volunteer.
There'll also be a river cleanup coming soon that the rafting companies always
it's on the
participate.
Wednesday. isn't it?
Mhm.
So a lot of cleanup efforts here in the spring and the summer right around Florida.
All right, very good. Anything further? I'll call it adjourned at 7:54.